What if I told you that a 500-year-old Italian philosopher discovered the exact psychological triggers that make people say yes to anything you want? And what if these same techniques are being used right now by world leaders, CEOs, and master manipulators to control your decisions every single day? Today, we're diving deep into Niccolo Machiavelli's forbidden playbook. The same strategies that were so powerful. The Catholic Church banned his book in 1559. But here's the thing. Modern neuroscience has just proven that Machiavelli was right all along. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know the 3 secret influence techniques that Machiavelli called the art of orchestrating power. And I'll show you exactly how to use them ethically in your own life. Let's start with something that will blow your mind. Machiavelli wasn't just some random political theorist. He was the first person in history to completely separate politics from ethics. He looked at human behavior like a scientist, not a moralist. And what he discovered changed everything. You see, most people think influence is about being nice, being honest, being the good guy. But Machiavelli observed something different. He watched the most successful leaders of his time, and he noticed a pattern. The ones who got what they wanted weren't necessarily the nicest. They were the ones who understood human psychology at its deepest level. Here's where it gets fascinating. Recent neuroscience research has confirmed what Machiavelli intuited 500 years ago. Studies show that persuasion works through something called subjective valuation. Basically, your brain assigns value to ideas based on emotional triggers, not logical reasoning. This is exactly what Machiavelli was describing when he talked about controlling the signs of power. Dr. Robert Cialdini's research at Arizona State University proves that influence operates through 6 universal principles that bypass our rational thinking. These are the same principles Machiavelli identified centuries before modern psychology even existed. Let me tell you about Machiavelli's most controversial technique, what I call the Borgia principle. Machiavelli studied Cesare Borgia, who had just conquered a region and needed to gain control over his new subjects. Here's what Borgia did, and why it was genius. First, Borgia appointed a cruel minister to establish order through fear. The people hated this minister, but they obeyed. Then, and this is the brilliant part, Borgia had the minister publicly executed in the town square. Suddenly the people saw Borgia as their savior, who had rid them of the tyrant. Now, before you think this is just about medieval politics, let me show you how this works in modern life. The principle is simple. Create a problem, then solve it. Marketing companies do this constantly. They make you aware of a problem you didn't know you had, then offer the solution. Think about it. Are you tired of feeling tired? Is your skin not glowing enough? Are you missing out on financial freedom? They're creating the cruel minister, the problem, then positioning themselves as Borgia, the solution. But here's the ethical way to use this. Instead of creating fake problems, identify real problems people already have but aren't fully aware of. Then position yourself as the person who can solve them. For example, if you're a fitness coach, don't create insecurity about people's bodies. Instead, help them recognize that their lack of energy is affecting their relationships and career success. Then show them how fitness solves that real problem. Machiavelli's second secret technique is what he called being both the fox and the lion. He said a prince must be the fox to avoid the snares, and a lion to overwhelm the wolves. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a complete psychological strategy. The fox represents intelligence, cunning, and the ability to see traps before you fall into them. The lion represents strength, courage, and the ability to intimidate when necessary. Machiavelli argued that you need both. Modern psychology backs this up completely. Research shows that effective leaders switch between what scientists call affective appeals, emotional, lion-like approaches, and cognitive appeals, logical, fox-like strategies. Studies prove that effective appeals are actually more persuasive than cognitive ones. The Harvard Business Review published research showing that leaders who can adapt their influence style based on the situation are 73% more effective than those who stick to one approach. Here's how you use this in real life. When you're trying to influence someone, start like a fox. Gather information. Understand their motivations, their fears, their desires. What are they really trying to achieve? What are they afraid of losing? Listen more than you speak. Ask questions that reveal their true priorities. Then, when you make your move, be the lion. Speak with confidence. Use powerful body language. Don't apologize for taking up space. But remember, the fox does the thinking. The lion does the executing. Now we get to Machiavelli's most famous and most misunderstood principle. It is better to be feared than loved. But here's what most people miss. Machiavelli didn't say you should be cruel or evil. He said something much more sophisticated. He observed that love is fragile and conditional. People love you when it benefits them, but they'll abandon you the moment someone offers them something better. Fear, on the other hand, is consistent. But, and this is crucial, he warned against being hated. Modern neuroscience explains exactly why this works. When someone fears the consequences of not following through, their brain's threat detection system activates. This creates what researchers call loss aversion, the psychological principle that people are more motivated to avoid losing something than to gain something equivalent. Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman's research shows that the pain of losing is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. But here's how you use this ethically. Instead of making people fear you personally, make them fear the consequences of not taking action. If you don't invest in your education now, you'll be stuck in the same job 5 years from now. If you don't start that business, someone else will capture that market opportunity. You're not threatening them. You're helping them see the natural consequences of inaction. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said a leader should be feared but not hated. People should fear disappointing you or missing out on what you offer, but they should never fear that you'll harm them personally. Now these 3 techniques are just the beginning. What I'm about to share next will completely change how you think about influence and power. Machiavelli discovered that there are invisible forces that control human behavior, forces so subtle that most people never even notice them. But once you understand these forces, you can use them to guide people toward better decisions, to inspire them to take action, and to build the kind of respect and authority that makes others naturally want to follow your lead. The 4th technique Machiavelli mastered was what he called the reputation fortress. He understood that your reputation precedes you into every room, every conversation, every negotiation. But here's what's brilliant about his approach. He didn't just focus on building a good reputation. He focused on building a strategic reputation that served his specific goals. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should be known for certain qualities that make people automatically defer to his judgment. Modern research in social psychology confirms this completely. Studies show that people make decisions about whether to trust and follow someone within the first 7 seconds of meeting them, and these decisions are based almost entirely on reputation and first impressions. Here's how you build your own reputation fortress. First, identify the one quality you want to be known for above all others. Not 5 qualities, not 3. 1. Machiavelli was known for his strategic thinking. Steve Jobs was known for perfectionism. Oprah is known for empathy. Warren Buffett is known for patience. When people hear your name, what's the first word that should come to mind? Once you've identified this quality, you need to demonstrate it consistently in every interaction, no matter how small. Every email you send, every meeting you attend, every conversation you have should reinforce this reputation. But here's the advanced part that most people miss. Machiavelli understood that you need to control not just what people think about you, but what they think you're capable of. He called this Maintaining an aura of mystery. The moment people think they have you completely figured out, you lose your influence over them. This is why Machiavelli advised leaders to never reveal all their capabilities at once. Always keep something in reserve. Always let people wonder what else you might be capable of. The fifth technique is strategic deception, and this is where most people get Machiavelli completely wrong. They think he advocated lying and manipulation. But that's not what he meant at all. Strategic deception is about controlling the flow of information to guide people toward better decisions. It's about understanding that sometimes people need to be protected from their own short-term thinking. A parent who tells their child that vegetables taste good isn't lying. They're using strategic deception to help the child develop healthy habits. A coach who tells their team they're the underdogs when they're actually favored isn't lying. They're using strategic deception to keep the team focused and motivated. Here's how this works in practice. Let's say you're trying to convince your team to adopt a new software system. You know it's the right decision, but you also know they're resistant to change. The direct approach would be to list all the benefits and hope they agree. But the strategic deception approach would be to let them discover the problems with the current system themselves. You might ask questions like, how much time do you think we're losing with our current process? What would happen if we could cut that time in half? You're not lying about anything, but you're controlling the flow of information to guide them toward the conclusion you want them to reach. The sixth and most powerful technique is what Machiavelli called the loyalty paradox. He observed that the leaders who demanded loyalty rarely received it, while the leaders who inspired loyalty never had to ask for it. This seems contradictory, but modern neuroscience explains exactly why this works. When you demand loyalty, you activate people's psychological reactance, their natural resistance to being controlled. But when you inspire loyalty, you activate their intrinsic motivation, their desire to be part of something meaningful. Here's the secret. Loyalty isn't about what people owe you, it's about what you've given them. Machiavelli understood that true loyalty comes from making people feel valued, understood, and part of something bigger than themselves. He wrote that a prince should make his subjects feel that their success is tied to his success. This isn't manipulation, it's alignment. When people genuinely believe that helping you succeed will help them succeed, they'll move mountains for you. But here's the advanced application that separates true masters of influence from everyone else. Machiavelli discovered that the most powerful form of loyalty comes from shared struggle. People who overcome challenges together develop an unbreakable bond. This is why military units that go through combat together become like family. This is why startup teams that survive the early struggles together often stay together for decades. If you want to build real loyalty, don't just share the victories, share the struggles. The seventh technique is controlled vulnerability. Machiavelli understood that showing strategic weakness can actually increase your power. This sounds counterintuitive, but it's based on a deep understanding of human psychology. When you reveal a carefully chosen vulnerability, people feel trusted and important. They feel like they're seeing the real you, not just the public persona. This creates a powerful psychological bond. But the key word here is controlled. You don't share every weakness or every doubt. You share specific vulnerabilities that actually make people respect you more. A CEO who admits they don't know everything about technology but surrounds themselves with experts isn't showing weakness. They're showing wisdom. A leader who admits they made a mistake and takes responsibility isn't showing weakness. They're showing integrity. The final technique is what I call the Machiavellian mirror. This is perhaps his most sophisticated insight. The most powerful form of influence is helping people see themselves more clearly. Machiavelli understood that people are driven by their self-image, and if you can help them see a better version of themselves, they'll do almost anything to live up to that image. This is why great coaches don't just teach skills. They help athletes see themselves as champions. This is why great teachers don't just share knowledge. They help students see themselves as scholars. Here's how you use the Machiavellian mirror. Instead of telling people what you want them to do, help them see who they could become if they did it. Instead of saying you should exercise more, say I can see you're someone who values discipline and taking care of yourself. Instead of saying you should start that business, say you have the mind of an entrepreneur. I can see it in how you think about problems and opportunities. These 8 techniques represent 500 years of tested wisdom about human nature and influence. But remember what Machiavelli himself said: knowledge without action is worthless. The question isn't whether these techniques work. History has proven that they do. The question is whether you'll have the courage to use them responsibly. Because with great power comes great responsibility, and the ability to influence others is one of the greatest powers you can possess. Use it wisely, use it ethically, and use it to make the world a better place.